The New York Islanders have been officially eliminated from the playoffs, and even after that happens, they can't seem to get things right. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us here today to talk a little Islanders hockey. And this was an eventful weekend for the New York Islanders. We're going to break all of that down. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Organizationally, they continue to make more mistakes that do potentially cost them in more ways than one. And we will briefly discuss both of this weekend's games. Let's start with the elimination from the playoffs. And we knew this was coming. We knew it was happening. This team, all you got to do, everydayers, is go back to last week where the Islanders give up 7 goals to the Nashville Predators and then 9 goals to the New York Rangers in 2 games they absolutely needed to win to keep their fading playoff hopes alive. And you knew it was just a matter of time until the New York Islanders were mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. And that inevitability happened on Saturday when the Philadelphia Flyers beat the Islanders in a shootout and ended the Islanders' playoff hopes. Their tragic number is 0. And the Islanders, for the second time in 4 years, will not make the playoffs. And for the 4th year in a row, obviously, they will not win a playoff round. And I guess when you look at the big picture for this team, they remain really, really stuck in the muddy middle. And there are players you can build around to make this team more successful. And I do not think a complete retool is needed. You have Ilya Sorokin. If you get a good enough backup and you don't have to play him 65 times a season, you probably are in a situation where, you've got the goalie you can build around. You've got Bo Horvat. You've certainly got, when he's healthy, Mathew Barzal. I think that Simon Holmstrom is a player who is growing into somebody who can be a useful cog. He's no star, but I think he's a good middle 6 forward and has the potential to maybe even become a second liner over the course of his career, maybe in the near future. And then, you've certainly got a big question mark in Noah Dobson. Question mark because on the one hand, here is a defenseman who scored 70 points last year, and a right shot defenseman who can score 70 points is a rare and valuable commodity in the National Hockey League. But he's also very shaky in his own zone, a defensive liability. And this year as well, he's fallen off. I mean, he's got 40 points instead of 70, a big drop, and has been inconsistent offensively where he went long stretches without really playing well. But realistically, what you're looking at here is, let's say a half a dozen players on this roster who you can theoretically build around. And I think you do not need a full rebuild where you tear it all down. A full rebuild to me is you trade Ilya Sorokin, you trade Mathew Barzal, you trade Noah Dobson. You just get young players and picks, knowing you're going to lose for 2 or 3 or more years, but with the hope that you create a team that, matures at the right time. After 2 or 3 years, you add a sprinkling of quality veterans via trades or free agency, and you go from being stuck in the muddy middle, where this team has been for a very long time, to hopefully a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, which this team just hasn't been in the last 4 years, maybe longer, but certainly for the last 4 seasons. And realistically, if you go back and look at why this team did not make the playoffs this year, injuries are definitely a part of it. So many guys got hurt over the course of the season. Semyon Varlamov was one of the early ones. Anthony Duclair went down. Mathew Barzal has missed time. So many players over the course of this season have missed significant playing time. Adam Pelech again. Alexander Romanov has missed several games. Ryan Polak has missed a half a dozen games. It's there. And, it's a problem. But realistically speaking, the team's lack of speed, lack of offensive firepower, lack of consistency, inability to hold leads, and, to be more specific, a brutal special teams unit, both power play and penalty kill, are the bigger reason for this team's disappointing performance. When you're next to last on the power play in the league and next to last on the penalty kill, and when your power play is in danger of being the worst in franchise history, and if you're old enough to remember the expansion year Islanders, that a team that won 12 out of 78 games, the fact that this power play is worse than that power play is ugly. And, the only power play that this year's edition of the Islanders may be better than is, the lowest point, the early 2000s lowest point of the Mike Milbury era. So special teams have absolutely hurt this team. Their inability to clear the zone, their inconsistent play on defense. Everydayers, this is a greatest hits, right? This is stuff we've been saying all year, part of last year, just, for far too long. So while I do not believe that the Islanders need to rip everything apart, that there is, if you do it wisely, a foundation to build on here, there also needs to be a change of approach. And the change of approach has to be a new general manager. This team needs to get younger, faster, and more skilled. And they need to take one step back to potentially take 2 or more steps forward. You have an aging core. You have, how many guys on the wrong side of 30 on this team? Anders Lee, Kyle Palmieri, J.G. Pageau, Ryan Polak, Adam Pelech, Semyon Varlamov. Bo Horvat is hitting 30 right about now. There are a lot of older guys. Obviously, Matt Martin is, on the wrong side of 30. There are a lot of guys on this roster that it makes more sense, and quite honestly, would have made more sense to have moved them at the trade deadline, because this team, its ceiling, the way it's currently constructed, is either barely making or barely missing the playoffs, and then almost certainly a first-round exit. If you somehow pull off the upset and win one round, that would be like a super successful, exceeding expectations kind of season for this group, the way it is currently constructed. You can't keep doubling down on the same core when the results just aren't there. And that's what Lou Lamorello has consistently done over the last 4 years. You can't chase 8th place in the conference, sacrifice the future in the process, and just watch this aging core keep getting older and older. And remember, everydayers know, Lou Lamorello didn't even want to trade Brock Nelson. It was Brock who forced Lou's hand. So even with all of the situations that we're seeing with the Islanders clearly not being a cup contending team this year, Lou's strategy was, I want to bring back Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri in one of the biggest sellers markets in recent memory and keep this core together yet another year. So realistically, what ownership needs to do, and it is ultimately on ownership, you need to say to Lou Lamorello, either you change the direction of this team this offseason, or we will bring in somebody who will do that. And, you know, if Lou is unwilling or unable to change his approach, then Lou's time has passed. And it's up to ownership, Malkin and Ledecky, to make the right decision and change the direction of this team and the way this team is put together and built. And believe me, I am not knocking guys like Anders Lee and Matt Martin and J.G. Pageau and Adam Pelech and Ryan Pollock and, Palmieri. I like all of those guys, but it's still a business, and you need to win and put the best players you can on the ice in order to win. And as the cliche in sports goes, it is always better to get rid of a player a year too soon than a year too late. In the case of Lou Lamorello, it's 2 or 3 years too late on a lot of these guys. And unfortunately, the longer he waits to start making the necessary changes, the deeper the hole will be, the more likely it is you do need that complete rebuild, and the longer it will take to execute that rebuild, which means a bunch of years of really bad hockey in our future unless you start to change direction. We've got a lot more to talk about, including what happened this weekend. The team made some fundamental mistakes this weekend that may end up having cost them. We'll also talk about both of this weekend's games. Plus, for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a player born in Poland who spent about 5 seasons with the Islanders in the late 1990s and early 2000s and had a couple of 30-goal seasons for the team. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates will be available to you to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. So again, the Islanders on Saturday were eliminated, as we mentioned, and yet they continue to make similar mistakes again and again. Please explain to me why Ilya Sorokin started Sunday's game in goal. Sorokin was injured earlier in the week. Sorokin has been overused this year, and we know that as of, before Sunday, there were 3 games left on the schedule. We know the Islanders are out of the playoff picture. There is no benefit to starting Ilya Sorokin. Look, I'm glad he was healthy enough to be able to play. And if you don't want to play Marcus Hogberg in back-to-back games, even though, he played better on Saturday, Tristan Lennox is as good an alternative at this stage of the season as anybody. Because give the kid a shot. I think Patrick Roy treated him poorly during Thursday's game against the Rangers, putting him in for a couple of minutes. He gives up a goal on 2 shots and then embarrassing him by taking him back out of the game. That is something that Patrick Roy, the player back in the day, would have had a very definite negative emotional reaction to, and I would say justifiably so. But, maybe if you didn't want Tristan Lennox, you call up Jakub Skarek and let him start. Maybe you let Hogberg start the game if he's okay playing in a back-to-back. But sending Sorokin out there with nothing at stake and the possibility that he could get injured is definitely not smart. He could have aggravated the injury he had. And let's face another fact. And, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. You're eliminated from the playoffs. Losing games, and I'm not saying you intentionally try to lose games, but losing games increases your chances of getting a better lottery pick in the draft. And whether Lou Lamorello or his successor uses that pick or trades it, the better the pick, the lower in the draft the pick is, the more value it has. So why not play one of your backup goalies? If he plays well, awesome. You can win a game. If he doesn't play well, okay, you lose the game. You have a better chance of getting a better draft choice. Thankfully, Sorokin was not hurt. He played well. He got a shutout. Was he challenged often? No. But, hey, he did his thing. He got the win. He got the shutout. But it just isn't logical as an approach with 3 games left and your team eliminated to bring your injured goalie back into a meaningless game in order to try to win that game, risking potentially aggravating that injury. And the other thing the Islanders didn't do, and again, every dayers will remember last week I discussed this. Once they were mathematically eliminated, you wanted to see some players from Bridgeport called up to see what they could do. Because there is no point in, again, you don't need to see anything else at this stage in the season from most of the guys on your roster. The Islanders didn't even change the guys they played, even though they were eliminated. We didn't see Mike Riley. We didn't see Perunovich. We didn't see Boquist. We just saw the same guys out there, just like they were still in the playoff hunt. And what ends up happening? Adam Pelech gets a headshot from Paul Cotter, leaves the game in the second period. Cotter ejected, rightfully so. And I'm not saying Cotter was intentionally trying to injure Pelech, but we all know Pelech's injury history. We don't need to see Adam Pelech out there. Anything he does in the last 3 games of the season is not going to move the needle one way or the other. If he went out there and played amazing, if he scored 5 goals in a game, it's not going to change the overall evaluation of who Adam Pelech is. And if he had a terrible game or 2, it's not going to change the evaluation of Adam Pelech. We know what kind of player he is, what he can do, and all of that. Instead, he ends up getting injured. We know his injury history. Give some of the kids a chance and rest some of your veterans. Let them just get a taste. Get a guy like Alex Jeffries, or, get him a few games of NHL experience. Let him know what it's like. You know what? It's an incentive. Maybe when you get a taste of something really good, you want more of it and you play better. It just didn't make sense at all to keep the same lineup, insert Ilya Sorokin, risk injury to some of your veterans, not give the kids at least a little chance to play in the NHL. All of this is just mind-boggling. And again, you win the games because the kids play well. Wonderful. You lose the games because they don't play well or they're not NHL ready. It helps you get a better chance at a better draft pick in the lottery. You gotta, one of my overall criticisms of the way this team is run by Lou Lamorello is he doesn't look long-term. And he's admitted this. I want to make the playoffs every year. That is my goal. And I get that theoretically. But there are times when you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Last year and this year were definitely among those times. And instead, Lou keeps doubling down, trying to re-sign Nelson, re-sign Palmieri, playing the veterans. You got to think long-term sometimes. And wisdom is knowing when. And now, folks, is the time to think long-term. And the Islanders organization is doing the opposite. So, yeah, you got 3 points this weekend. And that's fine. But you may have lost Adam Pelech, probably for the rest of this season. But certainly you risk injury to him, to Sorokin, who thankfully did not get hurt, and to several other players who, again, thankfully did not get hurt. And you're denying some of your younger players a chance to get a taste of NHL action. All when the games don't matter. And the game didn't matter the Devils either. It's not like you could sit there and say, oh, yeah, they're not being fair to the league because, it's competitive and the Devils needed the points, or a team that the Devils were chasing needs them to lose. No, the Devils are locked into a first-round playoff series against the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes will have home ice advantage, and that's the end of it. So, again, more mistakes made by this organization in their approach to how they're doing things. And it is frustrating for fans to just watch. It's like death by 1,000 cuts in slow motion. You got to be smart. And this team right now is not being run in the smart way. We have got more to get to on today's show. We'll talk about this weekend's games. Certainly they played better. We'll tell you how. Plus, our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. So after the two disasters last week against Nashville and the Rangers rather, the Islanders at least played better against Philadelphia and against New Jersey. And as I said in the last segment, they did add 3 points to their season total. Not that it matters anymore. I got to give credit to Bo Horvat. He had a goal and an assist against Philly. He had the only goal of the game against New Jersey. Bo Horvat has lifted his game for the most part since the trading of Brock Nelson, and that's what the Islanders needed him to do. So kudos to him. Marcus Hogberg bounced back and had a better game, so that is definitely a plus. Anders Lee continues to impress. Lee had a goal and an assist against Philadelphia. He's had a great year. He was a +1 against New Jersey. The goal was unassisted, so nobody got assists on it. But again, there are a few guys, J.G. Pageau overall has played well since the trade deadline. There are a few guys who have stepped up, and then there are a bunch of guys who are still struggling. Kudos to Ilya Sorokin for his strong play in the shutout win. The power play continues to be a mess. The penalty kill isn't much better. But again, at least over the weekend, the Islanders did not embarrass themselves. And I'll say this, Matt Martin has done an admirable job since he was brought back into the lineup. And, do I still think they could have called someone up? Yeah, and I still think they should. I'd let Matt Martin play the last 2 games of the year. They may very well be his last 2 games in an Islanders uniform. So we'll see. But again, guys, they played better. Against Philadelphia, it still wasn't good enough. You end up with a Horvat scoring the tying goal with a little more than a minute left in regulation. So, that was good, but you had a 2-1 lead going into the third period, and you blew it, and you were down 3-2. And again, the issues with the shootout. Can this team ever win a shootout? It doesn't happen often enough. One thing I would suggest this team do in the offseason, you got to get a guy who's good in the shootout. Whether that player is also a sniper, that's a bonus. But get me another Franz Nielsen. Franz Nielsen was a 15 to 20 goal a year kind of a guy, but in shootouts, he was deadly. Get me someone like that who can be a difference maker. So, look, at least the Islanders didn't embarrass themselves this weekend. They got a win and an overtime loss, but there really isn't much left to play for right now. There's 2 games left in the season, and the Islanders, even if they lose them both, they'll finish at NHL 500, and they could very well finish above it if they just get a point in these last 2 games. But again, the big picture is what we're going to start looking at, and there's a lot of big picture stuff to discuss between now and the draft and free agency, which is all coming up in a few weeks. So we'll certainly have all of that covered. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And Sunday was the 53rd birthday of former Islanders forward Mariusz Czerkawski, the native of Radomsko, Poland. And I hope I'm coming close to pronouncing that right. 5th round pick of the Boston Bruins back in 1991. Made his NHL debut with Boston in 93-94, then played for Edmonton before joining the Islanders for the 97-98 season. Stayed on the island through 2001-2002, then played for Montreal, came back briefly to the Islanders in 03-04, played for Toronto and Boston before finishing his career in Switzerland. Czerkawski had a 35-goal season for the Islanders in 1999-2000 and a 30-goal effort the following year. His NHL career, 215 goals, 435 points in 745 career games, add 8 goals, 15 points in 42 playoff games. And yes, 12 of those games were with the Islanders. He had 2 goals and 3 assists in them. One of his better games with the Isles, how about April 9th, 2000, Islanders hosting the Florida Panthers at the Nassau Coliseum. Trevor Kidd, the goalie for Florida. Roberto Luongo in between the pipes for the New York Islanders. And after Florida took a 1-0 lead, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Mariusz Czerkawski, ends up scoring on the power play midway through the second period. And Claude Lapointe and Ray Giroux with the assist. That ties the game at 1. And then later on, less than 2 minutes later, Czerkawski again from Giroux and Lapointe, again on the power play. Islanders up 2-1. In the third period, Czerkawski completes the hat trick. Brad Isbister with the assist at even strength. Islanders go on to win this game by a score of 3-2. For Mariusz Czerkawski, a hat trick. He had 2 penalty minutes. He had 6 shots on goal, which was first on the team, and he played 21 minutes and 10 seconds. Luongo with 29 saves in the Islanders' 3-2 win over the Florida Panthers. So Mariusz Czerkawski is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. It's on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow. We will preview the big game, well, at least one of the 2 remaining games, this one against the Washington Capitals, and it is the home finale. So make sure you join us for that. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.